blood. You look to your buddies. You look to your friends.
There's only a couple guys in the whole world that make me love pro wrestling, and you're one of them.
You know, all the bad shit you've heard about us, it's all true. But another thing that's true is we love professional wrestling, and that's why we're here. I'm not sports entertainment anymore.
Talk to him, kid.
This is a new beginning, and it starts tonight.
A new day is dawning for DX.
Know who you're talking to?
Hey there, X-Pac 12360 fans. We're coming back at you with a brand new episode, and it's going to be a big one. Jesse Ventura will be joining us later for an interview. We already have Joey Styles on the line waiting to talk to us. Jimbo's on the booth.
Hello, y'all.
Mark is in the booth. Jimbo's actually on the couch.
I am in the booth and he's on the couch.
Hey, Mark. And now, the one and only, the man you've all tuned in for, Mr. Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Hello. How you doing, Christy?
Hey, well, I'm good because we're like rolling right into it today. We have the other one and only, Joey Styles on the line. What's up, Joey?
Hey, Joey.
Hey, what's going on? First and foremost, I want fans to know that Christy doesn't always look that perfect because I got to see you guys prepping before the show, and Christy was fixing her hair. So I don't want fans just thinking that Christy looks that perfect while wearing a headset. She was fixing her hair, so it was perfect under the headset, so it cascaded over the shoulders.
That's how we're going to start this off? You're calling me out, Joey?
Phenomenal.
I, on the other hand,
I'll take it.
I, on the other hand, I look this great all the time.
That is true.
Yeah, I get up out of bed looking like this. So,
Sean, do you remember the first time we met?
I do. Mount Vernon, New York.
Mount Vernon, New York. I was still in college. It was summer of 1992. You were still the Lightning Kid. I had watched you on ESPN. I believe our birthdays are only 2 days apart. I think you're the 12th and I'm the 14th of July.
Oh, wow. Our guest coming up, the Governor Jesse Ventura, is at the same birthday as Joey Styles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've interviewed Jesse Ventura, and it is fascinating. I mean, I was in the room with him for so long that Vince just left me behind. It was for WWE, and he's like, "We're leaving." I'm like, "I don't care. This is too interesting. I'm just going to keep interviewing him. I'll see you in the next town."
So you weren't in the wrestling industry at the time when I met you, though?
That was my first night.
Oh, wow. Wow,
that was my first
cool.
night. By the way, congratulations on the new show on AfterBuzz TV. I don't know how you pulled this off, if you have pictures of Maria and her husband, but this is just fantastic. Good for you.
Why, thank you, Joey. Thank you. I'm not going to tell you on air how I pulled this off, but it was quite the coup. Yeah. So, Joey, tell us about the Flo Wrestling streaming service.
You got a big new venture going on, too.
Yeah, it's not so much me, but this company, Flo Sports.tv, which started with a couple of guys traveling out of a sleeper van. One of them was in amateur wrestling in college. The other one did track and field. And they realized that these sports didn't get a lot of coverage except for the Olympics for the most part. So, they bought a sleeper van in Dallas, and then it broke down on the way back to Austin, and they got it fixed. And they traveled the country doing live streaming of track and field and wrestling. So now they have FloWrestling.tv, FloTrack.tv, FloCheer.tv, FloRodeo.tv,
wow.
And they want to add a vertical pro wrestling channel. They're calling it ProSlam.tv, and they signed a deal with WWN Live, which is the parent company of Evolve, who I do some work for. So I'm now involved as a color commentator, and I'm also the authority figure for Evolve on camera. So I'm involved in this phenomenal new venture in that, Flo Sports TV is looking to create an indie channel that pretty much operates just like WWE Network. It's a streaming channel.
And Joey, so far, what are the promotions that you can tell us are on board?
The only one they've announced is a 5-year licensing deal with WWN, which is the parent company of Evolve. Right. They also have Florida Impact Pro, and they have a women's wrestling promotion as well. I've read reports online that I don't want to repeat because I don't want to be an unreliable source. But if I'm looking out there at the indie scene, I'm looking at anybody who runs monthly shows and draws fans And even if they don't do live, because primarily what Flo Sports wants is live broadcasting. So if you are live streaming your events, you're going to have a leg up if you talk to Flo Sports. But even the video on demand and the DVD sales, I mean, I'm thinking about Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore. I'm thinking of Chikara, which, you and I worked together out of Philadelphia. There's Beyond Wrestling out of New England. PWG would be a great choice. There's AAW out of Chicago. There's AIW out of Cleveland. There's Smash Wrestling out of Toronto. There's Border City Wrestling out of Windsor. I mean, I can go on and on.
Well, how about the UK promotions and possibly any of the Japanese promotions, Joey?
I've heard they do want to go after Japanese promotions. I know that the big one is New Japan, and they have their own New Japan World.
Right.
The problem with New Japan World is...
Have you ever tried to navigate that thing?
What's that?
Have you ever tried to navigate that site?
Well,
so
there's
hard.
nothing in English, really.
Right.
So even if you can get past watching the matches with only Japanese announcing, which kind of grates on me after a while, at least if there were subtitles, that'd be fine.
Right.
But you can't navigate it because I am stunned by the fact that they have thousands of subscribers in English language companies, and they didn't even care enough to translate this. You can hire a company to go ahead and translate your site into English. I mean, it's one of the things that I was involved in when I worked at WWE. There is a Spanish site, there's a German site, there is a Japanese site. So maybe Flo Sports can help them with that.
Maybe. It seems like they're leaving a lot of money on the table.
Quite a bit of American money and Canadian money and English pounds, I would think. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned WWE there, Joey, and WWE I know was part of a group of investors actually that invested in Flo Sports initially. Do they have any involvement in this current deal?
I don't know because I don't directly work for Flo Sports, but if you look up the Wall Street Journal, Flo Sports raised about $21.2 million in a round of funding earlier this year. I think it was 10 investors. One of them was WWE. One of them was Discovery Communications. So pretty heavy hitters. I have no idea what the conversations are between WWE and Flo Sports. I mean, I did speak with the big muckety-mucks at Flo Sports before doing these interviews just to get some talking points, but I wasn't going to ask them about the relationship with WWE because, frankly, it's none of my business. And then when stuff leaks, you know how it is, Sean.
Sure.
When stuff leaks out, you don't want to be accused of being the person who leaked it. So the less I know, the better.
Right.
I have plausible deniability.
Yes, exactly. Now, go ahead, Jimbo.
I was going to say, what kind of content are they looking for? Are they looking just for wrestling matches? Or like someone like me who makes wrestling documentaries, would they be interested in like putting our documentaries and maybe some behind-the-scenes stuff that we shot on this channel as well? Or is it solely
I think
wrestling
you're like
shows?
a lawyer and you're asking questions you already know the answer to. Because they are very public over the fact that they want to go ahead and have documentaries as well as interviews as I think free content, and then they want to go ahead and have the wrestling matches and live broadcasts as the premium content.
Huh. I see. So, Joey, hey, a lot of people, when headlines first came out about this, something that a lot of people brought up was the $20 price point. Now, I don't think that, compared to the WWE Network's 10, but the deal is this is niche programming. This is the type of programming I think people will pay a premium price for.
Well, I think, $20, obviously it's double the $10 price of WWE Network. You can also pay $150 up front for the year, which comes out to $12.50 a month. And then not only does that give you all of the programming, the pro wrestling programming on flowslam.tv, but you get all the programming across other channels. So they have flowcombat.tv, which is MMA. They have flowgrappling.tv, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They have boxing. They have rodeo, if you're into that. They have cheerleading. And the other point, as a pure wrestling fan, the real hardcore wrestling fans, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could be paying $10 a month to watch Beyond Wrestling's subscription service and then paying $8 a month for chikaratopia.com, and then paying $20 a month for a PWG DVD. It can get expensive really quick.
That's true.
Whereas if all these companies see the future and see the vision of pro sports, they can go ahead and license their footage, and there'll be a much bigger audience spending, $20 a month to see every major indie wrestling promotion.
That's cool. Well, we've loved hearing about it, but we also want to ask you what you've been up to lately. It sounds like you're a pretty busy guy.
Well, this is just what I do on weekends, is announce wrestling matches for fun. I'm back to selling digital advertising. I won't mention the site because it's not wrestling related, so your fans will find it boring. But no, I spend my weekdays commuting down from the woods of Connecticut into Manhattan, New York. And then on weekends, as long as I don't have to get on a plane, Sean knows how much I hate flying. So I can drive 3 hours south to Philadelphia, 3 hours north to Providence, and I can still call wrestling matches on the weekend for passion more than a paycheck. But I'm just really having fun.
Well, so Joey Styles has a shoot job, just like the rest of the poor indie wrestler guys that are out there sloughing it trying to make it?
Well, I always did. All of those years I was with ECW, I actually sold print advertising. Remember print?
I remember that.
Print advertising, I sold print advertising for News Corp all of those years. Then when ECW folded, I went back to work for different advertising agencies. And then I was with WWE for 10 years, but I only spent 2.5 announcing. The rest was spent in digital media content and digital media sales. So I've only spent 2.5 years of my whole life as only a wrestling announcer. Just most people don't know that.
Hey, Joey, some people, I'm not familiar with circumstances for your departure from WWE, but a few people have told me they thought that you tried to get fired. Is that true or false?
No, I was not trying to get terminated.
No beating around the bush on that question. Just
I mean that's the answer. I just told you that's not the case. But you know what? I had 10 years there. I made great friends. I made great money. I have no grudge whatsoever. I have lots of friends who still work in the office. I'm friends with a lot of the talent, and I couldn't be happier for all their success.
You know what? 10 years is a long, long run in WWE for anyone.
Yeah, and I think, it was really because I was more than just an announcer. I think that I was lucky enough that they saw value in me and my business background. And, of course, moving into digital media just came out to be very fortuitous because now I've gone ahead and I'm making a full-time living selling digital media again.
Nice. Cool.
And your work with Evolve, I know everybody just loves Evolve. What do you think about what's going on there? They are always thriving.
Well, if you look at Evolve, I mean, basically they got a lot of exposure, and their parent company, WWN Live, because of the Cruiserweight Classic. And a lot of the Evolve roster was in the Cruiserweight Classic. In fact, Cedric Alexander was signed. TJ Perkins was signed and became the Cruiserweight champion. Tony Nese and Drew Gulak are constantly on Raw now, and I believe it was just announced today they're going to be the kickoff match for Hell in a Cell this Sunday. So nice. Evolve has really become the stepping stone to WWE, which is great, and I get to call really athletic matches, and I get to be the color commentator, which people don't realize is no work. Play-by-play announcers do all the work.
You're usually the color and the straight guy all in one.
Yeah, and for ECW. But when you're the play-by-play guy, you have to do all the prep, have all the notes, know all the history. Right. As the color guy, as long as you can analyze basic holds, and you really should at this day and age know that an armbar is hyperextending the elbow. I mean, if you've taken anatomy in high school, you should be able to break down holds, or if you've watched some MMA. But then I also get to be funny, which is awesome. I don't have to be the serious guy anymore. So I'm having a blast doing color commentary for Lenny Leonard, who's the play-by-play guy for WWN. He's awesome. He is a major league talent.
Yeah, he's
really
excellent. Good. I've done color commentary with him before. I think for Chikara.
CZW or
no, didn't Chikara or no?
I've heard you did Chikara, and because they have a no potty mouth policy, like you can't even say the words hell or damn, so I got reprimanded. Oh, yeah. I heard they had to heavily go back and edit your commentary.
Wow, no wonder they didn't have me on again. I thought I did a good job, Joey.
No, you did do a good job, but I got reprimanded like I said he's doing a hell of a job, trying to get this win. And you can't say hell, you can't say damn.
Right.
Billy Gunn said suck it.
I was just going to say.
And he thought he was being funny, and he was shocked to see that he was met with dead silence and a huge.
Well, did you see the look on my face?
You warned him.
Yes.
You told him, don't do it. This is the only place in the world they don't want to hear it. I guess he thought you were kidding.
He doubled down.
He was met with stunned silence.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. But, actually, I thought we recovered well from that. Believe it or not. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. But it's funny because Evolve is so family friendly. And I really, when I was 25, calling ECW blood and guts and women flashing and foul language was cool. Now that I'm 45 and I have a 13-year-old and I've been married almost 20 years and I volunteer with the Knights of Columbus, I look back at that and I'm like, well, that's horrible.
Yeah,
so, a company like Chikara where the fans actually chant holy poop instead of holy S, I think it's great.
But I do think it's kind of funny that they're completely family friendly to the extreme on that when it comes to that. Yet they're not afraid to have a girl and a guy in there going at it. Man on woman violence.
And it's really what I've learned is, because I'm not a huge fan of intergender wrestling.
Me neither.
Because if it's done badly, it exposes the business. If it's done well, where the woman, unless she's huge, is clearly the underdog.
Sure.
And not so much striking, but going for submissions and trying to win with a quick one and everything else, it comes off really well. But I've seen some matches where they're put together so the woman is striking as much as the man, and I think it just look, unless you're Ronda Rousey, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that women can't beat up men. I've met quite a few women who can stretch me. Eve Torres, I think, has her black belt now in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. But for the most part, to see a 5-foot-tall woman trading punches with a 6-foot-tall man, I'm sitting there watching and thinking, who allowed this? And why didn't the two wrestlers putting together the match not know that this was going to look awful? But when it's done right, it's really good.
Yeah, it is. Joey, one last thing. When is this platform looking to be up and running as far as the Flow Wrestling?
Oh, this month. I believe the first event is November 5th. I believe it's a women's match. And I know that the Saturday, November 12th show, that's Evolve in New York City that I'm going to be on, will be on flowslam.tv. The Sunday, November 13th show, which is in Joppa, Maryland, will also be streaming on flowslam.tv. So this starts November, which is next week.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, go ahead, Christy. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, that's awesome. I can't wait.
I was going to say, now that you're working with Evolve, what was it like to be back with Gabe Sapolsky, another former ECW backstage person?
Oh, Gabe and I go back 20-something years, and it's great. And I call him boss, and he hates it. Because, I was announcing, and he started with the Sabu fan club and then selling programs and then just being Paul's assistant and learning everything from the ground up. So he told me he doesn't like when I call him boss, so I just do it to kind of get on his nerves now. I just think it's funny. Cool. Okay, boss, whatever you want, boss. He's like, would you please stop?
He doesn't act like he's a good boss, but he doesn't act like a typical boss.
No, not at all.
Very cool.
In a lot of ways, it's like Paul Heyman. You always feel like you're working with him, not for him. Pretty much all the indie promoters for the most part are like that. Mike Quackenbush from Chikara, he's the boss.
He is, man.
He doesn't drop the hammer, but he is so organized about every detail. Just the branding, the colors, the flow of the show, the timing. Don't go over your time on a Chikara show because you won't be back.
Yeah, Mike Quackenbush's vision is very clear on, and it's amazing. The guy's, as far as I know, the guy is drug-free and alcohol-free. But
Absolutely.
You wouldn't know it with some of the shit he comes up with, Joey.
Yeah,
it's some good stuff.
For example, I'm calling on Saturday, November 5th. I'm calling a match between Rock Lobster, which is a very good wrestler wearing a lobster outfit, and the Hermit Crab, who is he's basically a tribute to Grand Naniwa, except he actually comes out with a foam hermit crab shell on his back and takes it off. So once the bell rings, it's a great wrestling match. But if I wasn't drug-free, I would think I was tripping.
Oh, Especially when they go into the slow motion high spots.
I haven't seen that yet. But, you know, what's great is that his company, and I didn't realize it until he explained it, especially this season, because he breaks down his product into seasons.
Yes.
This season is a love letter to Marvel. In fact, I've even got Mike an interview. He's going to be talking to Marvel.com, because the villains or the heels have all been hexed, so they're called the Hexed Men. And the group of baby faces they're battling, I didn't realize it until I really looked at their outfits and what they're wearing. They're basically the Avengers. So I didn't get it until Mike pointed it out. So, you know, I think that's why it's so kid-friendly. He also gives free tickets to kids who are 12 and under. Like, if your parent buys a ticket and you're 12 or younger, you get a free seat. I mean, he is so into families because he's a dad himself, I guess.
Yeah. Very cool. Hey, Joey, I appreciate you taking the time to tell us about the Flo Wrestling and everything, dude. And it's always good to hear from you, man. It's good to see you, too. It was great seeing you.
I am just so happy for you. When you told me that you had, because when I asked you if you were still living in Philly, you're like, no, I'm in LA, and you told me about the show, and I went and watched all the back episodes.
Oh, wow,
and
really?
You told me that this is just, I mean, I could not be happier for you. I mean, you have had your ups and downs. You are a hard worker. You have a great mind for the business. You are extremely entertaining. You've always been magic on the mic, especially when you were just speaking from the heart. And this is a great fit for you. Thanks, Maria and her husband made a great choice. They've got Christy there to kind of, you know, offset you and the other two guys. You know,
Christy. Hey, look, Look, my ego doesn't prevent me from saying that I need these two. Well, I need everybody involved here because, I mean, no way I can do this by myself. I'm not one of those. I'm no Steve Austin.
And we are very happy to be here.
But thank you so much, Joey, man. I hope to see you soon, man.
I hope so, too. And thank you all very much for having me on. Anytime you want me to talk about anything, for guest cancels, just hit me up. I might be doing it while walking down the streets of Manhattan.
Very cool.
But I think that would just be funnier.
Agreed.
I'm very grateful, Joey.
Awesome. Well, then we will talk to you soon, and also thank you for watching.
Thank you very much, Christy. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joey.
Thank you, Joey.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
Oh, that was fun. He's so much fun.
Yeah, I'm a big Joey Styles fan.
Yeah, well, it apparently goes both ways.
Yeah. Hey, he takes the time to watch this show. You know what? There's a lot of shows out there. There's a lot of shows to watch and listen to, and you know, not just Joey, but anyone that takes the time, you know, to watch or listen to ours. Very grateful.
Yes, we appreciate that very much. And if you are listening to our podcast, do not forget on iTunes to rate, comment, and subscribe. Please give us 5 stars because we love you. Let us know what you think about the show. And if you use a podcast app that we aren't available on, you can help us submit to that app. Just copy our RSS feed. It's right there in the description box, and contact the app's support email. It's easy to find. Thank you in advance. And on that note, I think we're going to move on to the X-Pac 1-2-3-60 News of the Week.
X-Pac 1-2-3-60 Wrestling News.
Yes, I am so excited about this first story, and actually this one has set the internet ablaze. Diamond Dallas Page's daughter announced that she and a ton of other famous female offspring are starting their own wrestling league. TMZ Sports actually caught up with her in an airport, and she gave a little interview. She explained the new venture to TMZ. She said, basically, we're starting a women's league. It's going to go up against TNA. So they're looking at TNA as their competition. She says they're very excited about it. Brooke Hogan, Lacey Von Erich, Roddy Piper's daughter, Ariel Toombs, and JC Vidi's daughter, Bianca Van Dam, are also involved. Former TNA creative team member Christy Hemme is apparently involved as well. And Brittany Page said, she kind of sort of said that Dallas will probably show up at some point in time. But Christy Hemme has been teasing a big announcement for quite a while. And now I know that she is started to talk about this promotion just yesterday. Meanwhile, Brittany, they kind of got Brittany at the airport and she spilled the beans. So either way, this is fantastic news.
I did catch this story last night. I think, did it break last night?
Yes.
Okay. And it sounds like fun. And I hope, hope something comes of it. I'm not sure what they mean by they're going to be competition for TNA, but I guess we'll find out, right? So,
Yeah.
The more wrestling, the better. What the hell?
Do you think this is something that has been like in the talks or in the works, or when they saw like Glow's going to have a Netflix show, they were like, oh, pull the trigger. Like, we need to do this. Like, start doing it.
Yeah, I'm sure that might have had something to do with it.
I know Christy has been gone from TNA for several months now, and she's been talking about really doing something big like this. And so I think it's been in the works for a while.
And you know, with the whole we call it the women's wrestling revolution.
Yeah.
I was gonna say divas, but
No.
sorry, no more divas. Anyways, I think just with the emergence of the ladies as a real, I mean, they're right up there with the guys as far as I'm concerned. As I mean, neck and neck. As far as what I like when I watch the show. So, you know, being that they're not just like a special attraction anymore, I think, you know, maybe other people are going, oh, women's wrestling is a valuable thing. We can do something. You know, I know there's Shimmer.
Mm-hmm. There's Shimmer. There's Shine.
Shine. There's Glow. There's a ton of them, but so we'll see what happens.
Can I just say, I hope they name this something a little less feminine. Just when we're saying Shimmer, Shine, Glow, those are all fantastic names, but maybe let's go with something a little more hardcore.
Anyways.
Yeah.
It's all speculation until we hear more. So.
That is true. That is true.
Good for them.
And another wrestler embarking on a new adventure. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going back to his beginnings in pro wrestling for his latest project. Fox has nabbed a hot comedy pilot from him, get this, and producer Will Ferrell, inspired by The Rock's real-life relationship with former WWE head writer Brian Gewirtz. Variety has reported this, and it's going to be a behind-the-scenes look at a fictional professional wrestling outfit. A relationship develops between a charismatic young character, I wonder who that's based on, and a painfully awkward comedy writer. And, you know, basically The Rock is saying the entertaining show that goes on in front of the crowd pales in comparison to the insanely entertaining show that goes on backstage. You can attest to that. And Brian and himself cannot wait to tell their stories. Brian said, you know, he came from the Hollywood industry into the wrestling industry, and he was kind of shell-shocked when he did so at the personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're just looking forward to kind of telling these behind-the-scenes stories in this Fox TV show, which is also produced by The Rock's company that does Ballers as well. So he's making all these things happen. He's starring in them, and this one sounds like it's going to be really fun.
Well, Brian Gewirtz is... some people know that he and I are we're not each other's favorite people. I mean, I'm not anymore so much, but at one time, not at all, at all. As a matter of fact, I organized Wrestlers Court and for Brian.
Oh.
Yeah.
How did that go down?
Oh, it didn't go down good for him. He did not take it well, and I was buried creatively, probably from that day forward, actually. So. Anyways, as we were saying,
it's just occurring to me that we didn't go over these beforehand like we usually do.
Didn't.
I think we're going to be okay on the rest, because now we're going to talk about Kevin Nash.
All right.
Kevin Nash and TNA star Mike Bennett have been cast in a new horror film called Anders Manor. This is also going to be starring Christina Robinson from Dexter to play the lead. Godsmack frontman Sully Erna is also going to be in this one. And Kevin Nash will be doing something a little out of character. He will be playing a reverend, while Bennett will be portraying a wild and unruly redneck. So the producers and the directors, basically, of this movie are huge fans of pro wrestling, and they just want to cast wrestlers in their movies and see them do something cool. So the executive producer, David, said, we get to see Kevin Nash in a role that you would never expect. So fans can look forward to that. Meanwhile, Shawn Michaels has also been cast in a new film called Avengers of Justice Farce Wars. It's a spoof of Star Wars and Marvel superhero adventures. HBK will play a mentor to a character named Superbat, and Amy Smart and Simon Rex are also in that one. So these guys are making big waves in the film industry with some pretty big co-stars.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Kev had a new... Actually, you know what? That's who it was that came to meet us when... Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, no.
Tell us the story, Sean.
No, I'm pretty sure I met the director and some of the people there. Okay. I just didn't know this was
the Bluefish when you were doing.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, when we were out there. When we were out there in Bridgeport, they came by. So, Okay, yeah, I was aware. I just wasn't aware of what the name of the project was. And
Reverend Kev.
Yeah, can you see him playing a reverend?
Of course. Of course. I can totally see that.
Can we all go to the premiere?
I don't know. I haven't been invited, so shit.
All right, we'll keep you posted on that. Meanwhile, turning to a bit of sad news, former WWE star Frenchie Martin has passed away. That's Jean Gagné, known to WWE fans as Frenchie Martin. He was the manager of the mighty Dino Bravo. People may remember that sign he used to hold that said, USA is not okay. Frenchie was 66 years old and had been battling cancer for quite some time. The Montreal Journal reported in early September that he'd been moved to hospice care. And he said at that time, "I led an extraordinary life. I am proud to have succeeded in the world of wrestling. I am no more worthy than another, but I'm not afraid of death. I accept the results."
Wow, Frenchie Martin was a really cool cat.
Yeah.
He was very cool. He used to come, he wasn't working there anymore by the time I got there, but he would still, when we were in Montreal or, cities like that, he would come visit. And I've always been the guy that really loved the guys that came before me. All the old timers, whatever you want to call them, veterans. Anyways, I have huge love for everybody.
So he was an old school wrestler that then became a manager because he wasn't wrestling anymore?
That's right. Yeah. French Canadian from the Pat Patterson, Dino Bravo, all those guys up in that area.
Wow.
So, R.I.P. Frenchie. Rest in peace.
Yeah, yes, and WWE did offer their condolences to his friends and family. Moving on to a little TNA news. We got to keep you guys posted on all the craziness that's going on there. Now, brand new court documents in Billy Corgan's lawsuit against the company are revealing some major insight. Billy Corgan says he wants full control over the company and claims that Dixie Carter lied to him about her sale discussions with WWE. These court documents also revealed that Billy financially bailed TNA out of shutting down multiple times. And the last time that he did that, he actually made some demands. And Dixie Carter told him at that time she pledged 100% of her equity interest in Impact to Billy Corgan for him bailing the company out. And he is upset about several things that went down, also including apparently Dixie denied that she had any discussions with WWE about selling the company, but she told the entire locker room during a meeting not too long ago a completely different story. And Billy also claims that she failed to keep him kind of in the know on what was going on with the company and ignored his authority and affected his ability to manage the affairs. He wants TNA to pay him compensatory damages for not keeping their end of the bargain. And that was compensatory.
They should. And my personal dealings with Dixie Carter is that she has a habit of not telling the truth. At all. They're telling you one thing and meaning another. And that's not just coming from me. So, I mean, hey, whatever.
No.
I wish Billy the best. I was concerned that something like this would happen with. Anyways, I don't want to get up on my soapbox and get off on a rant here.
All right. Let's kick that soapbox away.
Yeah.
And I will tell you all that was the X-Pac 12360 News of the Week. I'm Christy Olsen, your managing editor and chief correspondent of AfterBuzz TV's Pro Wrestling News Division. And we will be back with an interview with Jesse Ventura. Stay tuned.
What's up, party people? Roxy Stryer here from The Tomorrow Show with Keven Undergaro. We're your twice-weekly broadcast of one man's midlife crisis and the mad millennials in Star Trek uniforms that follow him.
And I'm one of those millennials, Lauren LaGrasso here. We've had some amazing guests like Russell Simmons, Ileana Douglas, and Craig Gass. Coolio, right?
Christian Blatt in the house to tell you to go to thetomorrowshow.com to check us out. We're live every Monday and Thursday from 10 to midnight Eastern. That's thetomorrowshow.com. Be there or be square, whatever that means.
Welcome back. Up next on X-Pac 12360, this guest has an incredibly unique resume, including Navy SEAL, activist, professional wrestler, and pioneer of celebrity politics. Please welcome former Minnesota governor and author of the Marijuana Manifesto, Jesse Ventura. Hey, Jesse.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Hey, Jesse, this is X-Pac. This is Sean. How are you?
Hi, Sean. How are you doing? Did you finally gain some weight?
I did.
I recall you as being the skinniest wrestler I ever saw.
That's right. I was. I was for a long time, Jesse. But I think after Vince had a little success with me, he had a bit of faith in some other smaller guys. But
yeah, well, that's good. But yeah, no, that's what I recollect the most. You were the skinniest wrestler I ever saw.
And
very good.
Oh, thank you, Jesse.
Your talent was exceptional.
Well, when I would go to the gym, Jesse, if I could get a workout in, see, the thing is whenever I was there and you were there, I could never get a workout in because we would sit and talk forever. At the gym in the Plymouth gym. It's no longer around, huh, Jesse?
No, it's still there. It's just under new ownership the last time I heard. I mean, I don't live over there anymore. I live by White Bear Lake now, and I train in my house, so I don't go to gyms anymore.
Wow.
But it's still there. It's just the original owner sold out, I think.
Yeah, Jim Younger and
Yeah.
Hawk and Animal and all the guys, all the legendary Minnesota guys train there.
Crew.
Yeah, so of course I had to go there. But Jesse, you're familiar with the Monday Night Wars and all that. I know you'd been out of the deal for a while before you came back, but I was wondering if you actually realized that the big explosion in wrestling in the late '90s was a direct result of you having an agent in the early '80s, Barry Bloom.
Yeah, it might well be.
I guarantee it was.
When I got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2004, and really I've had no contact much with wrestling at all when I left it in early 1990s. But when I did go into the Hall of Fame, I remember it made Vince a little antsy out in the crowd when I stated that my greatest accomplishment in the world of pro wrestling was I was the first wrestler who introduced an agent into Vince McMahon. Not even Hogan had done that.
Right.
Hogan had a Hollywood agent, but he didn't have any agent that dealt directly with Vince. And I was the first one to do that. And that happened when I was doing Predator because I had to quit. Vince wasn't going to let me do the film. And so I quit. And I went and did Predator. And while I was doing Predator, Arnold approached me about doing The Running Man that fall. So I waited until I had signed The Running Man, so I had that in my hip pocket when I came back to negotiate with Vince. So it put me in a great position of being able to walk away. And you have to be in that position to negotiate. You have to be in a position where you're willing to walk. And it put me in the position to where I could walk away if I had to. And I told Vince point blank, I said, at that time, I said, Barry Bloom is handling my entire career except you. And I said, you got 2 minutes to convince me why he shouldn't handle you, too. Well, what happened in a nutshell was when I negotiated back, then I had The Running Man in my back pocket, my next film. So it put me in the position where I had the ace in the hole and I could walk.
Yeah.
And so I basically just told Vince, you either deal with Barry Bloom or I don't come back. And at that time, he was going into another season of NBC's Saturday Night Main Event, and apparently NBC was quite angry over the fact that they bought the program with me involved in it, and all of a sudden I wasn't. And so Vince basically had to bend over to my wishes, and probably the greatest compliment I was ever paid, an offhanded compliment, was old Freddie Blassie. Classy Freddie Blassie, I heard one day in the dressing room, said, there's only one guy who calls his shots completely with Vince. He goes, that's Jesse Ventura. And that's probably the proudest thing I've ever had said about me in wrestling.
Very cool. Coming from Freddie Blassie, that's saying a lot. Jesse,
well, Freddie had seen it all.
Oh yeah. The thing is, Jesse, a few years later, I was in L.A. recuperating from injury. Anyways, just to make a long story short, Rich Minzer, who was running Gold's Gym Enterprises at the time, he connected me with Barry Bloom. I went and had a meeting with Barry strictly to talk about doing movies. And he told me, he goes, hey, I just want to let you know that Eric Bischoff's in charge of WCW, and he's throwing a lot of money around right now. So I got on the phone with Scott Hall right there in his office, And Barry talked to Scott, and that set the whole ball rolling for us leaving and going to WCW. WCW with the NWO ended up kicking the shit out of WWF for almost a couple of years straight. Then Barry became all of our agents, including Triple H's, including Barry Bloom's. And the business made more money than it had ever made in the history of the industry because of an agent.
Yeah, well,
thank you very much, Jesse.
I could never understand, but I now understand why, too. Another thing I could never understand was why the AFTRA union didn't require wrestlers to join.
Thank you. And another thing, yes.
But I know now why. They didn't want to touch wrestling because they didn't want their health insurance to go to us.
Wow.
That had
makes
to
a lot
be
of
the
sense.
reason. You got to look at money, because why wouldn't they have stepped in and said, these are television performers and they're required to join the union the same as any other television performer is? But I think they stayed away from us. I don't know completely honestly, but I've got to believe they didn't want to take on wrestlers and then allow wrestlers into their health care system.
Well, that makes sense. Makes sense to
You
me.
know, because, wrestlers are naturally going to be beat up and broken down by the time they're done with 20 years in that business. And, they're going to add to the health care a great deal. And that's why I think the union stayed away from ever forcing wrestling to unionize, because it's sad that the business doesn't have a union.
Yeah, it is kind of sad. I don't know if it'll ever happen, Jesse. Do you think?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think either.
I don't see it ever happening, because it would require somebody to put their head underneath the anvil.
Sure.
And I don't think no one has the courage to try to do that. Plus, it would require all the wrestlers to stick together.
Yeah.
And I don't. That'd be like herding cats. I don't think it can happen.
That's
I
true.
tried.
I know you did,
I had
Jesse.
I
You
had
got a
my
lot of heat
infamous
for it,
fallout
too.
with Hogan, because right before WrestleMania 2, I stood up in the dressing room and there were no agents there. And I said, look, guys, if we walk out now and say we're not going to perform in WrestleMania unless federal union people are allowed to come in, I said, who do you think turns on the lights in these buildings? Who do you think runs them all? Unions.
That's right.
And I said, by federal law, they have to allow us to do this. I said, then we can get the WCW guys. At the time it was Charlotte. I said, if we get them to go along with it too, we can unionize all of wrestling. And I gave this huge speech. I got home the next day and my phone rang, and Vince threatened to fire me, read me off, all this stuff. And I left then and went and did Predator. So I became a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and I got my union. So when I came back to Vince, I told him, I said, you don't have to worry about me and union anymore. I have my union. I have my health benefits. I have my retirement. If these guys don't want to fight for anything, that's their problem.
Sure.
And then the reason I found out it was Hogan was years later I went to court with Vince, and under federal deposition I told the story to my attorney. And I said, find out who ratted me, because I said there was no one in that dressing room with the office. It was all the wrestlers, all the boys. And so my attorney says, gets Vince, and Vince is under sworn deposition. He said, Mr. McMahon, has there ever been a union in wrestling? And Vince goes, no. Has anyone ever tried to form one? And Vince thought a moment. He said, yeah, I think Jesse Ventura spouted his mouth off about it at one time. And my attorney said, well, did you hear him say it? And Vince said, no. My attorney said, well, how did you know he did that? And without any hesitation, Vince went, Hulk Hogan told me. So right there, I mean, and in my day in the business, a little bit before you, the worst thing you could be called was an office stooge.
Stooge.
You know, that's someone who pretends to be one of the boys and then is all the time relaying everything back to the office. And that's what Hogan turned out to be. And I found out why. In my court case, they brought up the numbers for WrestleMania 3, the big one at the Silverdome.
Yes.
And Hogan got paid more money than all the rest of us combined.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
Well, that came out in my court case. He even got, and Andre was included with us.
Wow.
Andre the Giant and all of the rest of us combined did not make what Hogan made. So you can see why he didn't want any union. He didn't want any interference, because he was, which is fine, you know, it's a dog-eat-dog world. He was being taken care of, But yet today he still denies doing that, and it's pretty laughable, really.
You know what's funny, Jesse? You brought up your attorney, David Olson, and he was my attorney too. Thank you very much again, Jesse. And so when I left WCW, or when I was fired while I was out with a broken neck, and I was 10 months or so into a broken neck. Anyways, when I went back to WWF to Vince, he wouldn't deal with Barry or David at all. And not until you became governor, Jesse. When you became governor, all of a sudden, he went from not dealing with those guys at all to, oh, we're all best friends again. It was kind of funny, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Well, I still laugh today because when I became governor, of course, I give Vince credit. He showed me a lot of respect where WCW made a joke out of it. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do something, it'll be with Vince.
Sure.
Because Vince treated my governorship honorably. WCW didn't.
He did.
And at the time, and of course I understand why Hogan was down there now. But when Vince hired me to do that SummerSlam, it was actually kind of embarrassing. And here's why.
Yeah, I was going to say why, Jesse.
I got the most money in my entire wrestling career for being a referee.
A referee. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah,
you know,
guys.
And that kind of, in a way, I thought about it, and I thought, God, that's kind of disheartening, isn't it?
Well, I don't know.
All the years I spent in the ring, and as hard as you work to be in the ring, and then you get your biggest payoff being a frickin' ref.
It just seems like that's how wrestling works. Like you bust your ass all this time, and when you're in your prime, that's not when you're making your most money. It seems like.
Well, you know, it was funny when I used to work one-on-one with Vince doing the tapes and all that in Connecticut. I said to him one day, and this was right prior to doing Predator, I said, Vince, the key to this business is to go get famous at something else and then come back to it, isn't it?
It is.
And he looked over at me and smiled. It was just he and I. And he said, now you're learning.
And I also found out that the key to dealing with Vince is he has to know you don't fucking need him. Excuse my language. If he knows you don't need him.
Well, that's not even the key for him.
Everyone.
That's a basic key in life.
Yeah.
Is that whenever you go in to negotiate something, you need to be in a position where you're comfortable with walking away. Yep. If you're not comfortable with walking away, you're never going to negotiate your best deal.
Yep, that's right.
It's that simple. And sometimes you can't walk away, so sometimes you get stuck with maybe not your best deal. But I've always found through my career that you're in the best bargaining position if you're willing to walk.
Well, you certainly walked away from having a second term as Minnesota governor, and we kind of want to switch gears a little bit and talk about that and talk about your book, your brand new book, The Marijuana Manifesto. But I got to ask you, I grew up in Minnesota, and living there when you were the governor, I remember it was on TV every night. What is Jesse Ventura saying today? What does Governor Jesse have to say? And it's sort of indicative of what we have going on now with Donald Trump. What do you think about this presidential race?
You know, yes and no. The reason I didn't go for a second term is, number one, I'm a firm believer in term limits, and I believe that you should serve, and when you're done, you should go back to what you used to do.
Amen.
That's one of the major problems in our country today is we have career politicians like Hillary Clinton. And I also, there were other reasons that I didn't state publicly. My wife's health was a concern. She didn't want me to run again. And so there was many reasons that I chose not to, and also the fact that my last year in office, the Dems and Repubs teamed up against me. They overrode my budget. They passed their own budget. They overrode both my vetoes, and that was another reason I left office, because I would have had to work under their budget. Well, when I left, because of their budget politically, they ended up with a $5 billion deficit.
Yeah, that's right. And
because
Jesse,
their budget was not fiscally sound, and I would have been stuck with that budget because of their political decisions. See, people need to understand that Democrats and Republicans, they don't make decisions for the people. They make decisions for their own power structure. And they wanted me out of office, so they were willing to sacrifice the people of Minnesota and their livelihood in which to try to get me out of office, which they succeeded.
I was going to say, they did a pretty good job.
I moved to Mexico then and have been living down there ever since.
But Jesse, when you became governor, you ran on you were going to give a huge refund in taxes. To
all that was they were overtaxing everyone.
Right.
That was one of the reasons I ran. They were running a budget surplus of billions of dollars, and right before I ran, they had it and they spent it.
And it was our money.
Yeah, it was our money. I mean, they have a budget. Live within your budget. If because the economy is so strong and your taxing policies are so strong that you end up with more money than what you need, my feelings were you have no right to that money. That money should be given back. And I did that for 3 of the 4 years I was in office, that people in Minnesota got a sales tax rebate where they got a check in the mail. And then here's the fun part. I had to fight the Republicans because the Republicans wanted it to be an income tax rebate. And I said, are you guys just stupid or what? I said, if you make it an income tax rebate, then everyone has to declare the money on their taxes, which means the federal government will take a third of our surplus. I said, if you make it a sales tax rebate, you can't deduct sales tax. So therefore, the people will get the money. They won't even have to declare it. And what do you think they'll do with that money? They'll go out and spend it, which means that'll boost the economy, because people fail to realize it's spending that keeps the economy running. You always hear this talk about, well, stop spending, stop the government from spending. Well, that's a shallow statement to make, because if people stop spending money, the economy grinds to a halt.
Right. And Jesse,
you have to spend. It's an old cliche that I learned from Vince. One thing I did learn without any doubt from Vince McMahon was you got to spend money to make money.
Exactly.
And Vince does that. Vince isn't fearful of doing that, and he understands that. And the same thing holds true with the economy. You've got to have spending in which that's the gasoline that runs the economic engine.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely brought up some ways the government can bring some more income in your book.
This is a great book, by the way, Jesse. Christy and I both read it. I can't say I read the whole thing because I didn't read the recipes. But
I don't. That's fine. That's okay. That's just an additional part of it to show how versatile the plant is.
But what I mean, pretty much it has a lot of old information and a ton of new information, Jesse. This is a great book, not just for people that are into marijuana, but I mean, and mind you, I'm sure, that's mainly the people that are going to buy it. But you talk about a lot of things in here, Jesse.
Sean, I'm hoping that people that aren't into marijuana will buy it so that
too.
they can educate themselves, because we've been lied to. Our history books have lied to us. Our country and our government has lied to us about this plant. This is a remarkable medical plant. And those that smoke it for the euphoric feeling are doing it for their mental health.
Just
I would
like
rather
Tommy
have someone
Chong said.
take a hit from a joint than be on Prozac.
Yep.
And the thing is, the astounding thing to me was doing the history and the research. When I found out, and get this, if George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, our first and third presidents, were alive today, they'd be raided by the DEA. They'd be doing 10 to 12 years in the federal prison for being major drug dealers.
Yep, for growing
because
that Indian
both of them
hemp.
raised acres of marijuana and sold it, and they knew the difference. Because in Washington's diary, he wrote how he allowed his plants to cross-pollinate, and he was angry over that. That he lost the two separate plants, the male and the female, one year. And the point is, marijuana was the economic driver of our entire economy in this country for our first 160 years. And nobody taught me that when I went to school. That wasn't in any of our history books, that this plant drove our economy. You could actually pay in lieu of money. You could pay with marijuana back in the colonial days.
Wow.
It's amazing to read about this.
It is amazing.
And then, of course, it got illegal because in the late 30s, William Randolph Hearst, the big paper guy, he owned 26 newspapers and he owned thousands of acres of timberland. Well, here's a little fact. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and Betsy Ross's original flag are all made out of marijuana.
That's right.
Marijuana was what they used for paper, and it was cheaper and reusable. And what Hearst did, he paid the politicians off. He started a campaign with his newspapers calling it the devil's weed, and he used racism completely. This is what blacks and brown-skinned people smoke, and you should be terrified of them. I mean, what he did was criminal to race relations because of marijuana.
Jesse, talk about Henry Anslinger for a minute. What a piece of garbage this guy was. And since you're talking about the racism,
he was the hired gun. Henry Anslinger was the guy that FBI, Hoover, and the FBI and all them. That I don't know if Hoover was in charge then or not, but anyway, it goes way back in the 30s. He was their hired gun that went out and did all the big drug busts. It was him and Hearst that created that film Reefer Madness in the 30s. And they got all the white power structure terrified of this plant so that he could sell his lumber for paper. And then they outlawed it throughout the whole country, and we've been fighting it ever since.
Yeah, I don't know if, see, most people don't have a clue who Henry Anslinger was, let alone some of the quotes, some of the racist quotes having to do with marijuana.
They're horrible. People should read this book just to see how they've been lied to. And then, of course, I love my foreword by Steve Cubby, because when you read that, you truly understand that the government doesn't give a damn about you. Steve Cubby was a guy dying of non-operable adrenal cancer. They gave him a 5-year death sentence. The doctors could do nothing for him. He was going to die within 5 years. That's 35 years ago.
Wow.
And marijuana cured his cancer. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so pushed on this. Someone very close to me developed a seizure disorder. Yeah. And we had to take, the person went on 4 different pharmaceutical medicines over a period of 2 years. None of them worked. 2 years ago, we took the person to Colorado, got, quote, medical marijuana drops under the tongue. The person has not had a seizure since. Today, they can get it in Minnesota in pill form. But the rub is what costs $30 in Colorado costs $600 in Minnesota.
Yeah. Wow. That's criminal, Jesse.
Well, that's because
evil,
it's
man.
so restrictive, and they have to be able to make a profit. If more people are getting it, the price goes down. But see, the government will only allow, and the other thing they're doing in Minnesota, no doctors will prescribe it.
Sure. That's a problem with a lot of states.
Oh, yeah, because, see, they're all under the thumb of the pharmaceutical industry, and the pharma doesn't want marijuana legal, and here's why. Here's why. And here's why the government don't want it legal, the feds. Because you can grow it. That means poor people would have access to it. They could grow it in their backyards like you'd grow tomatoes if it was legal. You wouldn't have to pay pharma. You wouldn't be controlled by pharma. You wouldn't even have to pay the U.S. government a penny. And trust me on this, Sean, having been in government, if the government could charge you for the air you breathe, if they could tax you for that, they would.
Oh, aren't they trying to? With carbon emissions and everything?
They don't want you getting anything that they don't get a cut of. And that's the problem with marijuana. If they legalize it, everyone could grow it, poor people could have access to it, and the government wouldn't make big money off it if everyone grew it on their own. Now, there'd still be a huge industry. Look at the tobacco industry. Look at the alcohol industry. You got the marijuana industry waiting to happen with all these jobs because people like you and I are probably not going to grow our own.
Correct.
You know, it's a lot, just like you're not going to make your own beer. You know, it's a lot easier to go down to the liquor store and buy a 6-pack than it is to sit at home and make your own beer.
Sure, and they'll do a better job of making it.
The same would hold true with marijuana. But the access to poor people would remain the same. If they didn't want to go buy it commercially, they could certainly grow it on their own and use the product.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, the DEA, their recent decision to keep it a Schedule 1 just is mind-blowing to everyone, doctors included. And now GW Pharmaceuticals has come out with a new study with some really good results for their drug that they've developed from cannabis.
Well, the thing is, they don't need to study marijuana anymore. We already subsidize a university in Israel.
Israel, yes.
It's called the Cannabis, and They know everything over there, and it's sad because they've already come out. The head doctor over there, he said it'll help post-traumatic stress syndrome from our soldiers coming home. It'll help the head traumas in the NFL, probably some of them in wrestling too.
Absolutely.
It would help seizures. It cures cancer.
It does cure
I need
cancer.
to go on? Glaucoma. This is a wonderful plant, and for all the religious people out there, think of this for a moment. God made it. If you believe in God, then God made marijuana, and what right do we have to destroy what God made?
Amen. If you believe in
if
God.
you're religious. And the
That's
point
right.
being, if you believe in religion, you believe God put it here for us to use it. Not
Right.
to burn it down, not to eradicate it. It's an unbelievable medical plant that pharmaceuticals don't want any part of because it's a natural thing. It's a plant that was here before we were.
Yeah. Jesse, other things you're hitting on in your book, not specifically about the plant itself, but you hit on jury nullification, which I'm huge on, and nobody knows about it. Nobody.
Oh, yeah. The thing is, if you get picked for a jury and you feel that marijuana should not be illegal, then don't convict anybody.
You have the right, as a juror, not to convict.
Absolutely you do. You absolutely do.
Yeah.
That's your conscience and your vote on a jury.
Now, I've talked...
If you're a jury and somebody's going to prison for smoking pot, I know if I sit on that jury, I'm not convicting them.
Well, there have been a few cases in the last few years. One in Florida, I know one in Jersey, where jury did just say not guilty when they were blatantly guilty.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
bullshit. You laugh today. You know the Colin Kaepernick thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I like. It doesn't bother me. I support Kaepernick as a veteran. He has every right to do that.
I agree.
If he wants change in this country, he's allowed by the First Amendment to petition the government, and if that means protesting the national anthem, he has the right to do that. I commend him for it.
Sure,
for being politically active and for being an engaged citizen.
In a nonviolent way. In a nonviolent way, Jesse. And not destroying anything.
Exactly. And so for Kaepernick to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll tell you what bothered me a hell of a lot more, Sean.
What's
Did
that,
you
Jesse?
read that story where the National Football League was being paid by the Department of Defense to honor veterans?
I did, Jesse. I did, and I've heard you talk about this before.
Story in a day. That story should be the story. How dare these billionaire owners get paid to honor me?
Paid patriotism.
They couldn't have slapped me in the face worse.
Yep, paid patriotism.
Paid patriotism. That's what you have. Now, whenever I watch a football game and they do all that stuff, I start laughing to myself and go, gee, how much money did you make doing that? And then you hear the national anthem. Home of the brave, land of the free. I start laughing over that when we have more people in jail than any other country in the world.
In the world. And how many, do you know how many are in jail for nonviolent drug crimes, Jesse?
Tons of them.
Million.
And we get into that in the book because it shows everybody wants the private sector to take over the government jobs.
No way. Especially,
so they've created these corporate-run prisons.
Totally
and the
evil.
problem there is that corporations have to make money for their shareholders, so it's imperative the prisons be full so that they can make profits.
This is slavery,
so they
Jesse.
need to arrest people and put them in jail, which marijuana people are perfect for that.
Yep.
It keeps the prisons full, and it keeps the corporate prison making profit.
And the marijuana arrests are the easiest. I know plenty of cops, and they tell me that. They don't mind arresting people for marijuana because they're usually not much of a threat to them physically. And the privatized prisons, to me, are basically just modern-day slavery, Jesse.
Oh, they are, because then they absolutely are, because then other corporations make a deal with the corporation, and they get slave sweatshop labor.
Yeah.
Where they got the prisoners producing their products and making, 50 cents an hour? 10 cents an hour,
and then
they're turning around selling the products to us for $10.
And then I think
whatever it is.
In your book, you talk about how they have stuff made in these prisons and then slap a "Made in the USA" label on it.
Yeah, and they're made in prison by prisoners. I guess you lose your rights when you go to prison, apparently.
Apparently, you don't get them back once you've supposedly paid your debt either.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's high time that this, Sean, the marijuana issue in this last political arena, you had the Trump people and you had the Bernie Sanders people.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, they both wanted the same thing.
A lot of them did. You're right, Jesse.
No, they did, but they can't come together because one's the progressive left and the other's the right-wing right. So they'll never come together, but they wanted the same thing. They wanted an overhaul of our government. Clean house, get rid of them. And, that's the problem you got now is that they're failing. So marijuana could be the issue where we, the people, can stand up because over 60% of Americans want full legalization now. We can stand up and tell the government this: you work for us, we don't work for you. You're there to do what we want. We want this product legal. You are not our parents. Legalize it. And they're doing it the right way. It's happening state by state by state.
Yep.
And when they see the profits coming in, all the states are going to do it pretty well. Then what does the federal government do at that point?
They have to. I imagine. How many states do you think have to do this before the federal government gets on board, Jesse?
Well, there's already 23 that have legalized it in some manner.
Yes.
Be it medical or the full legalization. California is voting on it this year. Massachusetts is voting on it. Hopefully, it's going to pass in all these states, and that's going to put the heat on the feds then. Because the feds don't want it because they make too much money off keeping it illegal.
Yeah. How about the situation in Washington, D.C.? Are you familiar with that?
Well, I know that Washington, D.C. allows it.
Yeah, but Congress blocked them from being able to use any public funds to start. I'm not using the right term, but to start the actual marketplace in D.C.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. They're finding all these underhanded ways.
Yes.
To stop the legalization of it. And that shows me clearly that our federal government is profiting from keeping it illegal, and they're not going to give in easily. That's why this is the true issue, that the people, by voting, can rise up, because how can they go against the states when the people have voted for it?
Right, and how can
it's on a ballot?
And the thing is a lot of the conservatives are the ones that believe in states' rights, but yet most of the conservatives don't want to go with the states' rights when it comes to this type of thing.
Well, because they're bought and owned by pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
You got to remember, the big corporations like pharma are the ones contributing to their campaigns. That's who pays for them to be in office. They're owned by these corporate entities. The liquor industry does not want marijuana legalized. Imagine that. People would smoke pot instead of get drunk.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of...
And I've said that publicly. If I were given the option of going to a pot party or a drinking party, I'll take the pot party.
Yeah, everyone...
Number one, the chances of violence will be slim to none. The drinking party, it'll be 50-50. No one's going to throw up on me at a pot party. And at a pot party, you can smoke till 3 in the morning and get up at 7 and go have a productive day at work.
That's a
If
fact.
you drink till 3 in the morning, you ain't going to work the next day.
There's no last call at a pot party either.
Hey, Jesse. Jesse.
By the way, did you see the thing that Brian Gumbel did on marijuana at Denver Stadium?
When was this?
Oh, he did a special on it on HBO. It was great. He went to the tailgaters at Mile High Stadium, because now it is Mile High Stadium.
Yes, no doubt.
And they got a distributor right across the lot. So you can go into the stadium and walk across the street and buy marijuana. They went to the tailgaters and they said, how is this working out? The tailgater says it's 100% better. They said, we used to come here at 8:30 in the morning and start drinking. By the time the game started, there'd be people throwing up, there'd be horrible behavior, there'd be fights, there'd be all sorts of bad things happening. They said, now we come at 11 o'clock, we smoke pot, we eat our food, we go in and truly enjoy the game, and they said it's a way better atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then they even asked Peyton Manning, not on camera, but Peyton is part owner of 19 Papa John pizzas places in Colorado. Peyton's answer was perfect. He said, in light of recent changes in the law, He goes, my pizza stores are doing fantastic.
Nice.
It's true.
Now, and I mean, what a perfect answer. Didn't even say the word marijuana. He just said, in light of certain recent changes in the law.
Jesse, I hate...
So people are seeing that we've been lied to. Here's another little thing. Everywhere they've legalized marijuana, they've seen heroin drop.
Right. Overdoses from heroin and opiates, yep.
Look at us here in Minnesota. We just lost our prince.
That's right.
We didn't lose him to marijuana. Had he been smoking pot, he'd still be alive. Yeah. We lost him to pharmaceutical opiates that kill 25,000 people a year. Nobody, I mean nobody, has died from overdosing pot. If you smoke pot and die from it, get ready, because you're going down in history as the first person.
Ever. You can say that about, I can't think of any other substance that you can really say that about. Caffeine, aspirin.
Look at drinking. All these college kids binge drink and they die.
Yeah.
Look at cigarettes, the most addicting thing, and they call marijuana the gateway drug? No, it isn't. Tobacco is.
Well, to me, Jesse...
Sean, what's the first thing you tried as a kid?
Exactly.
I bet it was a cigarette. It was for me.
Cigarettes and alcohol are, to me, the first
Cigarettes
drug you
and
take.
Alcohol were number 1 and 2.
That's right.
And then pot maybe was the third.
That's right. So that whole gateway drug theory, I think more and more people are realizing that's a bunch of bullshit, Jesse.
Well, hopefully they are. Sean, that's why I wrote this book, because I want people to read the history and to truly understand what's gone on. Like Judge Gray wrote on the back, he said if people found out how they prohibited marijuana, they would demand it be repealed. And this is a California circuit judge who quoted that on the back of my book, Judge Gray. And it's the truth. Yeah. If people learn the history about this, they'll be outraged that our government has kept it from us. I'll give you one final little example. Do you drink city water?
I don't.
No.
I actually, not a chance.
Everybody does at times, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, in the shower.
City water.
If you go to any restaurants,
you go to the
you probably
tap
do.
and there's water. You drink. Well, okay. When I was a little kid, they started putting fluoride in the water.
Yep.
Now, and they demanded, because in Brainerd, Minnesota, a couple decades ago, they didn't want fluoride, and the federal government came in and made them. After the people voted,
Sure.
They did not want it in their water.
Jesse.
The feds came in and said, you don't got a choice. Now, here's the quiz question. Who were the first people to put fluoride in water?
Actually,
the Nazis.
Actually,
the Nazis. You're correct. The Nazis were the first people to put fluoride in water, and here's why. Fluoride is the major ingredient of Prozac.
That's right. It is.
Just sedates you.
So when you drink fluoridated water, you're getting a daily dose of Prozac provided by your government.
And a lot of people don't know, Jesse, that fluoride is a byproduct of aluminum, and it was dumped into our waters and that before they figured out a way to actually sell it to us.
Exactly. And you know, and like I told, I was a little kid in the 50s when they came out saying, "Oh, you need this for your teeth." Well, stop and think about it a moment. Isn't that your parents' job?
Yeah.
Teach you how to brush your teeth and gargle with fluoridated mouthwash. Why should they be putting a chemical in our clear drinking water?
You know what's a funny connection? Well, I don't know how fucking funny it is, but Henry Anslinger actually married someone from the Mellon family who were responsible for dumping all the fluoride into the waters originally.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yep, it's a true story.
I'm not shocked over that, Sean.
Yeah.
That stands to reason.
Brutal. Hey, Jesse, there's something I wanted to talk to you about that doesn't really have to do with marijuana, but I'm a huge fan of his. And we'll just touch on this real quick because they don't teach, you were talking about in history class, they teach about a lot of generals, but not the greatest of them all, in my opinion, Major General Smedley Butler.
Yep. Well, Major General Butler, that's who I follow on my foreign policy positions because he wrote a book that I think that should be mandatory reading for every high school senior to graduate. And the book is called War is a Racket. And Major General Butler, he's a Marine, so he gets right to the point. It's a thin book. It isn't thick at all. He gets right to the point explaining to the public that when we go to war, it's not for the reasons they tell us. Wars are done so people profit with money. You have war profiteers. Like, I'll give you the example. In Vietnam, there was a company called Brown, and Root, and they got the billion-dollar job to dredge Cam Bay so it could be deeper so our ships could get in there and unload stuff.
Right.
$1 billion they got back in the 60s. Can you imagine how much money that was then?
It's amazing, yeah.
And, okay, who is Brown, and Root today? They changed their name. They're called Halliburton.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
nothing but war profiteers.
Wow.
And Dick Cheney's
yep.
the former head of Halliburton right before he became vice president, and they gave him a severance package where he got $34 million.
Wow.
And he only was head of the company for 5 years.
Darth Vader himself.
Now, do you think that was payment in advance to go to war?
I would
Anyway,
imagine.
getting back to General Butler. General Butler writes that we should pass a constitutional amendment that our troops are not allowed to go over 500 miles from our shore. If we do that, we will be the safest country in the world. And the reason that they can't destroy General Butler's credibility, here's the real sticker. He didn't win one. He won 2 Congressional Medals of
That's
Honor.
right. 2.
So how do you tell a 2-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner that they don't know what they're talking about in war?
Jesse, a lot, like, okay, but people, they also don't realize that Major General Butler was approached to actually be the head of a coup, a coup d'etat.
He was approached by the right-wing Wall Street
That's
Republicans to become our president. They were going to overthrow FDR because they thought he was too socialistic. Sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
And they picked General Butler. He was going to be the new president because they needed someone the people would trust, and a 2-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner who's going to not sit and show him respect.
That's right.
But the point was General Butler was a true American patriot. Guess what he did? He went to Congress and ratted them.
Yeah, and then
He
they
was
tried
a
to cover it up.
whistleblower.
And they tried to cover it up, Jesse.
Do you know what they would do with General Butler today? He'd probably be hiding out in Moscow.
Yeah, with Edward Snowden and Julian Assange.
Well, yeah, with Snowden, because Butler was a whistleblower. He blew the whistle on Wall Street that they were attempting a coup d'etat against FDR. How come we're not taught about that in school?
Exactly, Jesse. That was why I asked you about that. And
Yep.
and
We don't know. We're not taught anything about, just like the murder of Abraham Lincoln. They always stop it at the lone assassin, John Wilkes Booth, when the reality was, I think 6 people were tried and convicted. They were going to try to kill Lincoln as well as V.P. Johnson and Secretary of State Seward. They were only successful with Lincoln, and the reason that you want to know about the 6 people who were tried and convicted and sentenced to death, one of them was a woman, and it was the first woman ever sentenced to death.
That's right.
Yet they don't teach us about that in school either, do they?
No.
No. No. Well, Jesse, before we let you go, after hearing all this from you, we have to ask if you have another political run in the future.
Well, I don't know. You know, the libertarians offered me to come to their convention this year, and I didn't do it because I couldn't go all in. And when you go after a job like governor or president, you have to be 100% committed. You owe that to yourself, and you owe that to the people that vote for you. I couldn't reach that 100%. And also, if I do run, here's the challenge. I want the people of America to go out in every state and get me ballot access without a party.
Without
Because
libertarian
if I were to
even?
run for president, I would want to be the first person since George Washington to get elected who does not belong to any political party. So I don't want to be a libertarian. I don't want to be part of any party that I have to answer to. And so that would be the only way in 2020 that I would run, would require a grassroots movement and get me on the ballot in all 50 states. If that would happen, I would do it.
A lot of people are waiting anxiously for that. I know. I
Well,
heard,
it would require them to do it.
yeah.
I
exactly.
would have to see that I would have ballot, and they'd need to start right about now, because it would take them at least 2 years to accomplish that.
And then you'll be going against Kanye West in the 2020 election,
Yes.
Jesse.
I don't know any. Why is that what Kanye's going
Oh
to do?
yeah, he mentioned that like last year or something during one of Video Music Awards or some award show. Anyways, Jesse, this is a great book, Marijuana Manifesto. And, you know, I know you're really busy, Jesse, and I'm really, really grateful for your time today.
Well, thank you, and I want to apologize for canceling last week. I know we're a week off, but you get in these book tours and your head starts spinning around and all that stuff. So I'm pleased. You're my last interview.
Well, I'm honored and I'm very grateful, Jesse. And this is an amazing book, and you're an amazing American. And thank you so much, man. I hope to see you soon, Jess.
Thanks, Sean. Look forward to seeing you too, but don't hold my breath. Vince is going to bring me back because he's got to pay me.
Right on. And my best to Tyrell. My best to Tyrell.
You know, I'm the only guy that got a retirement, you know.
Well, I'm so happy for you, Jesse.
No,
Obviously,
I took him to court, and he has to pay me for every video or anywhere I appear.
Oh yeah.
So I've been getting quarterly checks from him for the last 25 years.
Sure. And I remember I remember you told me, not to go backwards here, but you actually, not long after you won that court case, you called Vince and he got like hot at you, right? That's my fucking money.
His money.
That's my fucking money.
Yeah, and I looked at him and said, Vince, the jury said it was my money, the federal judge said it was my money, the Court of Appeals said it was my money, and the Supreme Court said it was my money, because Vince took the case all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they wouldn't hear it. But anyway, I said to him then, I said, Vince, you're a minority opinion. It's my money.
So you got to keep your money, your name,
He wasn't
and all
happy
the
to
rights
hear
to
that.
all his videos and stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, Jesse.
So, Sean, thank you. We'll do it again sometime.
I hope so, man. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Jesse.
All right.
Oh, that was awesome. And we will be right back on AfterBuzz TV with more X-Pac 12360.
Hey guys, Maria Menounos here. We want to let you know about my new show on SiriusXM Stars Channel 109. It's called Conversations with Maria, and it's live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go to conversationswithmaria.com for more info. Buzz you later.
Hey wrestling fans, if you want to see Sean X-Pac Waltman in your area, be sure to make it out to the following upcoming shows. October 28th through the 30th in Dublin, Ireland for AWR. On Saturday, November 5th in LaSalle, Illinois, Sean will be making an appearance at Dreamwave Wrestling. If you have a promotion and want to book Sean Waltman on your wrestling show, send all serious appearance inquiries to showbiz@aol.com. Back to you in the studio.
We are back on X-Pac 12360. We just talked to Jesse Ventura, which I know we're all excited to do, and he did not disappoint, man.
No, Jesse never does. Actually, with Jesse, all you have to do is just point him in the right direction and just let him go.
Just cast the line out there and let it do the rest.
You don't even have to be a good interviewer, actually. Just Jesse's that damn good.
Well, it worked out well for us today. And I just remember I was just excited to interact with him at all because, like I said, growing up in Minnesota when he was the governor, every single day it was on the news. What is Jesse saying? What's he talking about? What is he doing now? And he was just such a fascinating character. And to see how he's kind of grown that from just being a pro wrestler and being sort of a celebrity politician into trying to actually give people information that they need and trying to make changes in this country is just, it's so commendable.
I think so. And a lot of people like try to, you know, they want to put a tinfoil hat on somebody if they're, even talking about things like conspiracy theories and that. And I think that he's done a lot, like you just said, and he's brought a lot of information to the surface, and very cool of Jesse to join us here. I'm pretty stoked that we got that. So,
Jesse, Joey, big day for us here at X-Pac 12360.
Nice. memories.
And it was a good one. And we want you guys to always keep up with us on social media so that you never miss an episode. We let you know who our next guest is coming up. This is where you can find all the links that we talk about on our show. So I need you to hit that like button at facebook.com/xpac12360 show. Please also follow us on Instagram at xpac12360. And you guys can always hit me up personally on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Christy Reports. Let me know what you think about the news. If you hear any rumblings, any rumors, any dirt sheet stories, hit me up. I'll get the scoop for you. And Jimbo, where can they follow you online?
You can follow me on Twitter at Jimbo in the Booth. Buy my documentary, The Young Bucks' Too Sweet Journey, at highspots.com, or maybe available on Flo Sports. Who knows?
Hey, we're just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at TheRealXPac. And in a couple of hours, I'm on a plane and on my way to Ireland.
Oh.
So I'll see y'all when I get back.
Yes.
Well, adios. And he will be back next Wednesday,
That's right.
Don't you worry. And we will be back then with another new episode of X-Pac 12360. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you then.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, Keven Undergaro, show producer Jimbo Frank, managing editor of AfterBuzz Wrestling Christy Olson, and managing producer of AfterBuzz Wrestling Mark Bidonica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Feel free to like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube, follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz you later!